Day I chose not to let anything win, but my drive to get me to the top.
Frank Lee made the beat.
What it do, KTTV? It's your boy KT, and I'm coming at you with another episode of Daily K. This time we got a special guest in the building as we back in H-Town. We have Jose Ortiz, and so I won't even go any further. I'll let him introduce himself.
Hello, everybody. Like he said, I'm Jose Ortiz. Currently, right now, I am an assistant principal at the Hicks Elementary, where I have the pleasure of working with Mr. Kendrick Thomas. And so I want to go ahead and just talk a little bit about where I'm from, a little bit of my background. I'm originally from a small city called Cuero, Texas. 1977 was the year I was born. My family didn't have a lot of money, so I really didn't have a lot of things when I was growing up. Went to school out at Southwest Texas State, what it was called back then, for a year. Went to the Victoria College, studied psychology, finished up at the University of Houston in Victoria. And then around the year 2000, I moved out to the Houston area, looking to go to school at the University of Clear Lake and studied psychology back then as well. At the age of 16, I started working at HEB. At that time, I was a sacker, pushed groceries. Then I became a little dairy clerk, and then I started being a cashier, bookkeeper. When I moved to Houston, they actually offered me a position in Galveston to be a lead bookkeeper / manager in charge and training. And so I took that, because I had a degree, they also let me go through a program which they called the School of Retail Leadership. And I completed that within 2 years, doing a service manager position and a a produce manager position, and then eventually a grocery manager position before becoming an assistant store director. When I became an assistant store director, I worked at 4 or 5 different locations. Heavy influence in the Hispanic areas, of course.
Okay.
And then probably in the year 2004, I was in charge of closing out stores. So I was sent to about 4 different stores that were either in the process of closing or needing to find a way to make profits in order to stay open. And we ended up closing about 3 of those stores. And that's when I realized that wasn't what I wanted to do anymore. I didn't see a way out of that opportunity. I didn't see a way to get away from having to be the one that goes in, has meetings with these staff members, letting them know that they are no longer going to have a grocery store. It really wasn't what I thought HEB had been my whole career there. 12 years at HEB, and then getting into this position and having to be the bearer of the bad news. Even at one of the stores in Pasadena, we did happen to meet the quota, and we increased sales over 100,000 per week, but we still had to close it down. And I think at that moment is when I realized I wanted to teach. Actually, I wanted to coach.
Okay.
And the only way to do that was to actually get in and be a teacher.
Yeah.
And so I did my ACP. It took me about a year. 2005, I finished up. So for the 2006 school year is when I started teaching.
Yeah.
They gave me a position in 4th grade.
Yeah. That was your first.
My first job was 4th grade.
Man. What school was it?
I did my first year teaching at Alexander Elementary.
So now coming back to the grocery store. So as you started as a sacker, and like I say, small world, because that was me too at Albertsons, 16 years old coming out, but I was like, man, that's a wrap. I had to move away. So man, what made you say, because you could have just did that and then left because you were 16, so now you're 18, you're coming into your man. What made you say, no, I want to stick it out and I want to go to the top?
I think it got serious when I went to San Marcos.
Okay.
I really thought long term. I thought about, okay, I'm working for this company, HEB, and my major at the time was graphic art, commercial artist. So I said to myself, oh man, if I could design HEB products, the labels, or a magazine for HEB. So at that moment, I said, okay, if I stuck with this art, then there's a future somewhere down the road with HEB,
Okay.
and I just don't know how I'm going to get there.
Okay.
But unfortunately, my first year there, things happened where I couldn't maintain my GPA and stuff. So I went to the university. I mean, I went to UH in Victoria and Victoria College. But I think that was the best move for me because I realized at that time there really wasn't a whole lot of jobs with a psychology degree.
Okay. Yeah.
And so I saw in the Victoria area, I saw in the Cuero area, that there just really wasn't a demand for anyone other than doing social work or working in a rehabilitation center.
Yeah.
And the money just wasn't that great. And so at that moment I said, you know what, well, if that doesn't work, let me just see how much I can do for HEB.
Okay.
And I started, becoming a cashier, then I became a bookkeeper, like I said, dairy clerk. But I was given that opportunity because I had the degree. Once I finished school, HEB, actually the area supervisors came from Houston one day and they toured our store. And at that moment, I had made connections back in 1998
Okay.
because we had the flood of Cuero, and we actually had a lot of people from the Houston area come down there to help us out with our store back then when we had the flood. So I already had an idea. I had met them at a real young age, and then now that I'm getting done with college, they came back. I saw them, I visited, and they actually offered me a position out in Galveston. And so when I moved to Galveston, I said, "This is it."
Yeah.
I mean, there was no other way. I mean, I'm fully vested in HEB.
Okay.
Even if I go back to school and get a master's degree in psychology, which is what the original plan was, I've committed now to being this HEB, manager in Galveston. And then, like I said, I got into that retail school, and then that's when it all just started happening. I was fortunate that I was able to take what I had learned in Cuero and applied it to the Houston area, but it was more about being a people person.
Yeah. Customer service.
Customer service. I love working with people.
Man.
Customer service. I love
Customer
working
service,
with people.
man. Customer service. So then here goes, this is the main question right here. Because it sounds like from college to moving to Galveston, you was at working at HEB through college.
Yes.
Okay, so then after that, you graduate, move to Galveston. What was the first time that you wanted to just quit and go back to Cuero, if that ever happened?
It was the first month that I was there, mainly because I didn't know if I was going to have enough money.
Okay.
When I started working for HEB, I was making $4.50 an hour.
Come on.
So,
Man, okay.
I never really knew what it was like, and I didn't know how much money I needed for anything because, like I said, I didn't have much money growing up, and so when I did start working at HEB, I used my money to buy stuff for my mom, my dad, for myself. So I never knew the power of living on your own.
Yeah.
And so my first apartment in Texas City was, not in the best of neighborhoods, but it was $400 a month.
Yeah.
And so it was, and I had no idea what that meant back then. $400 a month. I don't know what that is.
Like, man,
I moved to this area making $10.50.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I don't know. I guess I didn't realize what it would be. But then that first month, it was tough. One of the toughest moments, for me, coming from a small town, there are some things that happen in Cuero, nothing like what would happen in the Houston area. But I can remember during that first month, there was an actual FBI chase in my apartment complex.
Okay.
And when you haven't experienced anything like that before, it kind of opens your eyes to what else is out there.
Yeah.
Like I said,
man.
coming from Cuero, Texas, we didn't see that.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, thinking about how much money I was making, had a car that I didn't know how much longer it was going to make it.
Yeah.
And so driving, the biggest thing was just to drive from Texas City to Galveston. At that, it was a 20-minute drive for me, but I had never had to do that every day. because even when I went to school in Victoria, it's a 15-minute drive, but I didn't go every single day. And so now I'm having to go because I have to get there to work. There's no other way around it. And then if I want to move somewhere else, how am I going to be able to afford it? And so I toughed out those first 6 months living there, made it through my first month. And then after that, I was like, you know what, man, I made it through that. But it was a tough situation in Galveston as well. That store is crazy down there.
Yeah. But what pushed you through though? Like, I mean, because, man, it sounded like it was real.
Well, what pushed me through was mom.
Yeah.
Mom and dad were like, you know what, you moved. It was your choice.
Yeah.
You could have stayed in Quail. And I was like, you know what, you're absolutely right.
Let me get it.
I could have stayed in Quail.
Let me
I could
get
be
it.
at the house.
Yeah.
But I didn't, you know, I wanted to make it right with, you know, them. And then at that moment, I was like, well, what else am I going to do?
Yeah.
You know, there's nothing else that I could do, you know. So I said, you know what, let me make this work.
Okay.
And I tried a lot harder. What I really focused on, though, was not letting whatever was happening outside of work influence me at work.
Yeah.
And I think that was crucial because, you know, in the customer service business or in that management business, you're not only worried about the customers, but you have to worry about your employees.
Yes.
And if they see that you're having a bad day or if they see that you're upset, man, they feed off of that.
Yeah.
Especially in an area where it's tough like Galveston, you know, working down there, those customers had different concerns, different issues, and just having to try a little bit harder to make them happy in a different kind of way, or worried about someone coming in and taking something from the store that they shouldn't be taking.
Yeah, how I go.
You know, that's, you know, you have to be there for those people. And you have to understand that no matter how much I didn't like whatever was going on in my life, there's always somebody out there who's got it worse than you.
Always, man.
And so, and I realized that. I'm like, just working with the people in Galveston, seeing the clientele in Galveston, I was like, man, my life is not bad. You know, my life is not bad at all. I'm fortunate. You know, within a few months, I got another raise. So I'm like, you know what? Life is not, life is not bad, man, because every time, man.
It could be worse.
It could be worse.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Okay, so then fast forward. Like you said, man, you didn't really see an end to the grocery business. So you said you had to make one. Transition over. And so, wait a minute, you say you graduated or you was heading to grad school? Or?
I was headed to grad school, and I believe I took 12 hours of advanced psychology courses. Okay. But then I quit, and then I focused solely on HEB. Yeah. And then after that, it was around 2005 when I decided that I wanted to. So
you went with ACP?
I went through ACP. I actually applied in A-Leaf. Yeah. At that time, they had an actual program that they funded. Okay. And you know, and so the good thing was that I didn't have to pay anything to do it. They took everything out of my paycheck once I got a job. Okay. And so that's the only reason why I did it, possibly because I couldn't afford to actually go into it, and it was the only opportunity that I saw that, hey, they trained me, they let me do it, and then, I get a job. Now, obviously, if I wouldn't have gotten a job, I would have had to pay it back, but because I got the job, they just took it out of my paycheck, and so that made it a lot easier for me to continue with that.
Man, how many years was that? That's 2006?
Yeah, it was 2005 when I started that to 2006, and then from 2006 is now I'm been in education.
Think about to that first year, man. What was one of the biggest struggles then?
Thinking that the kids were kids. Relating to the kids as children, not as adults, because my entire career up until that point, I had been telling adults what to do. Yeah. I had been working with customers, staff. Never had I had to tell a 10-year-old or a 9-year-old to sit down and show them how to do some math. Yeah. It was always about either whether it was training that I did for partners or whatever meetings that I led, trainings. It was always an adult. Teenagers, perhaps, if they were new, but I never had to work with a child, and that was the biggest struggle, because they are completely different.
Hey, man, coming from high school to elementary, for me, it was different, so I understand totally what you're saying, man. Oh, man. So then, 2006 to now, with 2019, how many different positions so far through the district?
When I started in 2006, I was a fourth grade self-contained teacher.
Yes, sir.
And then the next year I did third grade self-contained, and then I looped back to fourth grade with that same group. So after my third year at Alexander, I went to Kennedy Elementary to do fourth grade, and I did self-contained my first year there. And then I did math and science the last 2 years. I was fortunate to be the math lead my second year at Kennedy. Dr. Burrs, we worked well together, and he had me be the math lead my second year. My third year at Kennedy, I won Teacher of the Year for Kennedy Elementary. So that was quite. That was pretty nice.
Yeah,
you know.
yeah.
My second year there, I had actually been a finalist for. I was beat out by another lady.
Okay.
So I was fortunate that 2 years in a row I was nominated. Especially in you know, I felt like, oh wow, a different school, nobody knew me.
Yeah.
But in my second year there, I got nominated.
Yeah.
So I was like, that was pretty sweet. And then my third year there, I won it. And so my third year at Kennedy was when I started thinking about a future in administration. Actually, it was my second year. I went to a meet and greet with A-Leaf, but it was for counseling. I thought, okay, psychology degree. I have 12 hours of psychology credit already. Why not go and get a counseling degree?
Yeah.
So I got there, and Chuck Lang was there.
Come on, not Chuck.
Good old Chuck.
Come on, Chuck.
And, after the meeting, he said to me, are you sure this is what you want to do?
Yeah.
Because I see you going the administrative route. And I knew Chuck because when I got hired, and I went through my ACP, he was actually one of the leaders, it was his department. He kind of helped us. So he kind of knew me already. And so I went home and I thought about it. And so a month later, I went to one of his informational meetings, and I said, you know what? Yeah. I was like, HEB management. Yeah. You got some experience. Let's see what we can do. And in my second year at Kennedy was when I actually started the program. Okay. And then had some good, met Mr. Vidal Isaac. Yeah. At Kennedy.
Mr. Vidal.
Yeah, Mr. Vidal. Yeah, good. We had some good times.
Yeah.
I convinced him to start. And so a semester after I did, he started. And so we took a lot of classes together. That last year, my last year at Kennedy, I was team leader. Yeah. And math lead again. And at that moment was when I applied for the ESL pool. My first year at Kennedy, I actually went and did the Specialist Academy. So I had done my first 3 years of teaching, and so I was eligible to go in and do the Specialist Academy, and I did it for ESL, even though I wanted to do math. I did ESL, and that was great for me too, because at that moment I got a job. Yeah. And it was the best of both worlds. At Ewens Elementary, they gave me an ESL interventionist position that was solely math.
Okay, best of both worlds.
So I did math intervention. However, around October, I believe, or November, our actual lead went out pregnant. And so for 3 or 4 months, me and the other interventionist actually co-led. Okay. And so not only was I doing intervention in math, but I was also doing all the compliance paperwork and TELPAS and all of that, and training on the ELPS for the staff. So I got to see all of that. Not just the intervention role. And so I think that prepared me for knowing about the compliance side of the ESL bilingual department in that world. My following year at Ewens Elementary, the math specialist had left. She went and she told Nancy Trent that she had not met anyone as capable taking over the math position as me. And I was like, wow. Okay. So Miss Michelle Luster left to go and be the math coordinator of the district for Katie. And the job had come up previously, but she had never taken it because she said that she just didn't feel comfortable leaving Ewens. And so now I felt blessed that she actually had trust in me. Yeah. And so I was the math specialist at Ewens for that following year.
Now, was math always your thing, like through college and things like that, or was it, okay, this is what I really picked up on my first year of teaching, I'm going to go run with this?
And teaching elementary math compared to doing finite math in college,
Yeah.
I hated math. In
Okay.
college.
Okay.
Hated it.
Okay.
But then it's a different when you see how you're breaking down numbers or doing number sense, math talks, math facts with kids.
Yes.
And so I had a special, I guess I could see numbers and count numbers, multiply, add, in my head, growing up.
Yeah.
And working for HEB, it got better because you had to deal with money, orders, percentages, budgets. And so looking at those numbers became almost like second nature to me.
Yeah. Okay.
But even working for HEB, that number talk that you do there or looking at budgets was nothing like the courses that you take in college. I mean, it was real stuff that, adding, subtracting, looking at, percentages.
Yeah.
So it wasn't as, it was fun to me, because you actually get to see, okay, well, I have this gross profit here. If I order this and that,
Yeah.
how can
Just
I
to work the trigger leg.
Right, making
Yeah.
that money for the store, for the
Yeah.
company. And so then teaching kids, well, what if you break down 20 and, that's, 2 tens and a 3 times whatever, that's doing that kind of math, like
Yeah.
really, I liked it. I loved it. And so I really loved my role as a math specialist because I was able to get other teachers to do that. And to see what I could see in the number process.
Okay, so then now we'll fast forward to where we're at today. But before we go to that, I did have one question about the Teacher of the Year.
Okay.
So this was your second year in teaching that you got nominated, or your second year at the school?
Second year at Kennedy, I got nominated.
Okay,
so it was
second-
my 5th year teaching.
Okay, fifth year teaching.
Right.
So then coming into it, 5 years into the game, like what skills or attributes that you brought from the business world or grocery world unto like teaching? Because you coming fresh out, so you gotta use what you got as you learn your new skills. And so what do you think helped you kind of mesh in? I know being a people person, for sure, but what else were some of the skills that helped you kind of mesh all those pieces together?
When I worked for HEB, it was all about making money for the business.
Okay.
It was all about everything that I do plays an integral part in whether or not we are successful as a business. And so every step, every detail, everything that you did and looked at, there was either a consequence or good or bad for it. And so you're thinking about every move that you make.
Yeah.
That helped me with teaching because you are teaching the future of America.
Yes, sir.
You have kids, and if you don't know the material like you should, or if you teach something in a way that's not understood, the kids won't learn it, and so you're really not helping them be successful.
Yeah.
So I kind of related to the fact that, okay, so now, instead of making money for the business, I'm making money for the future because our kids really have to understand what I'm teaching them.
Yeah.
And so it helped me be detailed. It helped me look at my curriculum, the way I was teaching, my plans, my engagement, how is everything set up for them to be successful. They're my business and they have to be successful. How are they going to make their money? And it was on me. It was all on me, whether it was the management or whether it was, the curriculum, the lesson plans. Every piece of that was on me in the classroom, everything.
Okay.
And so I had experience with that at HEB, helping me kind of like finesse it and fine tune it, but, being cognizant of that idea.
Yeah. So now fast forward, 2019. So you started AP, got the AP job. Was that 2015?
2015,
2015. 'Cause I was still in the class.
going into year 5.
Yeah. Come on, man.
Wow.
Wow. And so,
Year 5.
yeah. But I mean, this is what you work for.
When you think about that, that's pretty good.
Yeah.
I just, your ambitions to do, things, you have to have those ambitions. And I never, I'm going to be honest, I didn't know when I first started the administration route whether I wanted to run a school. But I saw other areas of education that I wanted or thought that I could be a part of.
Yeah.
For example, being a director of math curriculum or, doing something other than running a school. My dream job would be to facilitate teacher learning.
Okay.
and to actually be involved in either the direct overseeing of a department like that, and or actually just training teachers myself. Because like I said before, for HEB, you're there to make everyone else grow and to make them successful.
Yeah.
And so even when I had my students in my classroom, it was my job to do that. And then now in the role we have now, man, it's our job to make sure that the staff is successful, the students are successful. And how do you get to that point without, and it's tough sometimes.
Yeah.
It's tough.
I just want to say though, on the record, say man, it'll be some rough days if it weren't for you. Man.
Oh man, you know what?
Say man, just even sometimes when I get in there, man, and I'll be like, Ortiz, such and such. That boy just say, hey, well, did you such and such, or what about this? I'll be like, I'll be back. I'll be back. So man, I'll tell you, man, like it's not easy. And so to want to do more of this and then go more is something that you really got to be just sure about, but it's so admirable, man, because this is not for the faint of heart, man.
No, it's not.
Yeah.
But I want to go back to the point that you just made about, the help and stuff. I have to admit that every step of the way, whatever I've done, there's always been people there.
Yeah.
And that's the one thing that anyone should understand with whatever they have and whatever they want to do in life, is that there's always going to be someone either pushing you to do the best or someone who's going to try to keep you from doing your best.
Yeah.
And what I can say right now is that I've been blessed for the past 4 years, especially the last 3 working with Mr. Thomas.
Yeah.
When you or when you come into a new position like I did, and you have a veteran partner who then leaves, and all of a sudden you are after 1 year you become the veteran. You are the one that people turn to. I think we took that, both of us, as just a year to just really go after it. If I had to say right now, I believe my best years were my first, my second, and my third year. I think last year we had a little bit of a, there was some tough times, and then the year before that we kind of had the flood and all of that. But I think last year we had some really difficult situations that happened to work. But without each other, it would have been tough. There's moments where I was like, man, I'm like sitting there like, Mr. Thomas would come in and say, hey man, what's wrong? Because nobody knows what. Nobody really understands what we do day in and day out. Even when you separate our role as an assistant principal from a principal, dealing with what we have to deal with, and I know that eventually maybe I'll be fortunate enough to be a principal, but we have to think about right now that the majority of everything that happens at the schoolhouse is in our hands. The discipline, teachers, staff, whatever issues they have, especially parents. Unless things get really sideways, they rarely meet with the principal. It's usually we have to take care of that.
Hey man, buildings, buses, and butts. That is my motto, man. Shout out to Dr. Mackey, PV. Buildings, buses, and butts. He say as an AP, that's what you got to focus on. If you go down in that building, you need to be on it. So I'll say, okay, Dr. Mackey, so ever since then, say, man, that's what I try to come in and say, okay, I'm just get out here and make it happen, man. But like I say, it's a team effort because it's a lot, man. And the thing is, we learn it together. So, of course, we bump our heads. We like last minute. Some days it'll be rough, but it's fun, man. So I'll take it, man. I'll take it.
Yeah, and we were just talking about this earlier, how some days you just, you have that lack of motivation, but then you have to remember so many people count on you.
It does, man. That's how I be like, man. It'd be like, man, you got to make this schedule, or you got to do this up, and then you just wait a few minutes, and you say, man, this is my grade level, man. I got to get this thing in, man. Let me get on up here on a Sunday or something. Let me get things going. But overall, man, it's so rewarding. Like I say, I'm still learning. I'm still growing, and I can't thank you enough, man, for the information you know, for the things that you teach me, man. It's just real good, you know, to just be comfortable and be able to bump my head and still be able to move forward, you know.
Well, you know, the best students make the best teachers.
Yeah, it is.
And so when you ask for the advice or
Yeah.
whenever you come to me,
Yeah.
I feel like whether either one of us is right or wrong, there's never a moment where you're like, oh man, I don't
Yeah.
like that advice, or
Yeah.
you know, but we think through situations.
Yeah, man.
Because the worst thing anyone could ever do is ask someone for advice and then do what they want to anyway.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's the purpose of asking for advice. So I like how, you know, you come, we talk, and then, you know, for the most part, we together think about a solution
Yeah.
to the problem at hand without having, at that moment.
Yeah.
And I got to say too, one of the things that, you know, I'm sure other assistant principals out there, they tag team stuff, they do whatever. But I really have to say that when it gets time for the nitty gritty and we have a certain task that either I do or you do, I like how we can just, one person focuses on that task and the other person takes care of the school.
Say, man, I'm gonna hold it down.
And you know,
I got you, man.
it's you know, I don't know how often that happens in other places, because I hear of other people just, you know, they hate their jobs.
Yes.
You know, they hate who they work with. And, you know, I think that regardless of any situation, you're going to have the people that don't do what they're supposed to,
Yeah.
the people that might rub you the wrong way. But at the end of the day, we all in the same place.
Amen. Amen.
And so,
man.
Well, as we get ready to wrap this up, man, I just wanted to thank you for taking some time out to shout out to the world, to the KT TV audience. I know it was what we've been going about 30 minutes. Hey, man, good conversation.
I tell you what, though, man, I'm thank you for having me here.
Hey,
this
man.
has been fantastic.
Any words for up and coming teachers, store directors, assistant store directors, managers? Any words of wisdom from the world of Ortiz, man, as we close this thing out?
I think one of the biggest things that people have to realize is you have to stay focused.
Yeah.
Because I know from personal experience, once you lose focus, things can get a little bit cloudy,
Yeah.
and they tend to go astray. But if you have a dream and you have a goal that you want, you have to stay committed and you have to stay focused. You know, you do something one day, you just did it. But if you do something over time,
Yeah.
it becomes a pattern,
Yeah.
whether that's good or bad.
Yeah.
You know, smoking, drinking,
Yeah.
or commitment.
Yeah.
If you're committed to doing something and you are consistent with it,
Yeah.
you know, that's how it all starts. But I also want to think about it's others, you know, the people. You have to treat others like the way I know people say it all the time,
Yeah.
treat others the way you
Go
want
to
to be
work.
treated. But I'm a firm believer that, you know, no one should be treated in a bad fashion if they're
Yeah.
coming to you for help or if
Yeah.
you're trying to help them. It's our job as people
Yeah.
to help each other out.
Yeah.
And I think that you do that long enough, it becomes second nature for you.
There we go. That's what I like that, man. Good work today, man.
Appreciate it, man. Thank you, man.
All right, that'll do it for us. Another episode of the Daily KT TV signing out. 100.
All right, thank you.